Cheryl Cottrill. I'm the co-chair of Huron Shores Hospice. And I just want to tell you a little bit about how we got started as the hospice. So Peggy Zeppareri, Joni Eaglesham, and myself got together and started talking about the fact that we really needed something more in our community to help people at end of life. So the doctors were talking about the fact that really their only options were to send someone to hospital to die there, or to send someone to a long-term care facility, or have them die at home. And those were really their only three options. The hospital, they have a palliative care room set up, but it's not funded for palliative care. So they really only want people in there in the last few hours of death, of days to hours. So we knew we needed something more in our community, and we started looking around. We did a lot of research, and we landed on residential hospice as the way to go to have the biggest impact for the community. So we did a lot of visiting to a lot of different hospices in Ontario, kind of learned from them what they would have done differently, their best practices, brought that back, and we created a space in Tiverton Park Manor. And the reason we went to Tiverton Park Manor was because it actually was more economically feasible for us to utilize the resources that were already there. And it had such a nice home atmosphere that we really liked that part. When we walked into the building, we could feel that home kind of atmosphere. So we got a room, and the Carpenters Union from Kincardine, the local 2222, came in and they did all the renovations for us. So we put in a new floor, new trim, new fixtures. They painted the entire suite. They just did tremendous work for us pro bono, which was really great. And then we had a lot of the furniture that's in the suite donated by various people in the community. So that was great, and it all came together beautifully. And we opened the doors May 2018. So we do a number of different community programs as well through our hospice. So we have a grief recovery method group or one-on-one to help people recover from their grief after they've lost a loved one. That's open to the entire community. We certainly invite our families to participate, but it's open to the entire community as well. We do death cafes, and those are just an informal discussion about death and dying over coffee, tea, and cake. And it's really to change the conversation about death. So it's to get us, we're really a death-defiant society, even though we're all going to die, and we know that, but we like to deny that might happen. And it's just to change that conversation up so that we're more comfortable with the conversation about death and dying, and also more comfortable when it comes time to support a family member through that process. We do end-of-life education sessions, so those are kind of helping you plan for your end of life, and it's much easier to plan for that when you're well than it is when you're sick. So we really encourage people to think about that now and put the plans in place. So it touches on things like your power of attorney for personal care. Who would that decision maker be for you if you couldn't speak for yourself when you were ill? It also talks a lot about what it is you want at your end of life. So do you want to die in a hospice? Do you want to die in a hospital? Do you want to die at home? Those kinds of questions to really think about what that experience is going to be like for you and what you would feel most comfortable with. And also some vigil planning, so setting the scene for your last hours of life. What music do you want playing? What's the atmosphere in the room? Do you want people telling stories and more jovial kind of conversation, or do you want quiet in the room? All things to think about. And then you can do up a plan, and that can set, we encourage people to do an end-of-life box where they put all this information in. And then we have an end-of-life doula service that we provide to folks that are registered to come into the hospice. So an end-of-life doula really does help with that end-of-life planning, and they would be the ones that would help you get your vigil plan together. Maybe do a legacy project. So that might be the story of your life. in video or in book form or something like that. It could be just going through your pictures and putting people's names on them. It might be as easy as that, but it's just something that they feel that they're leaving behind for their family. The hospice annual budget for the first room is about $210,000 a year. When we add the second room, it'll be a little less expensive because we can share the PSW between the two rooms, and that's one of the biggest expenses we have because we have a PSW in the room every night so the family can sleep and get the rest that they need. So it'll be around $310 for the two rooms. We just got government funding, so they are providing $105,000 a year for the hospice suite. So we will have to fundraise $210,000 in the community year after year to keep the hospice going. So it's a big commitment for the community, and we're completely aware of the commitment, but I can tell you the community has been extremely generous in their support. And we have just been so lucky, and we're so blessed to operate in this community that supports us through thick and thin. They're there for us all the time. If we put a request out saying we need something for the suite, we have it immediately. People respond that quickly. So it is a big commitment for the community, but the community has really stepped up and helped us. For fundraising in the community, we have two major fundraisers. We have our Hike for Hospice, which happens the Saturday of Mother's Day weekend, and that is really growing since we started. And we started with less than 50 people, I think, came out to hike the first year. And in 2019, the last year that we had the hike, we had like over 130, something like that. The people came out to hike, and we raised like $48,000. Like, it was amazing just how the community is growing. Our own community is growing. More families are getting involved in the hike, and lots of people in the community come out. So that's great. We have our handbags for hospice in the fall, and that is the third Thursday in September. And that is an event that is actually a hospice event throughout the world. So it's very tied to hospices everywhere. We have lots of great sponsors who help us buy the handbags. We usually have over 100 handbags at the event in a silent auction and then in a live auction as well. And they range anywhere from $60 to $1,000, and we get tremendous support for that event. It's sold out in usually 10 to 15 minutes when the tickets go up, and people just really enjoy it. It's a great night out and lots of fun. And we have the auctionista come and do the auction. So she not only is an auctioneer, but she also is an entertainer, and she keeps the crowd going, and we raised lots of money. Last year we raised about $160,000 at that event, so amazing amount of money. So between those two events, we come very close to what we need right now for the first room in operating expenses, but we also get a lot of memorial donations from our families that use the suite, which is great. That's really helpful. In Ontario, usually the funding works a third the government, a third memorial donations, and a third fundraising. So that's what we hope to get to as we move forward. Tremendous community support for our events and for our donations. The philosophy of hospice is that we look after the family as a unit. So it's not just the person in the bed who's dying. We do everything we can to make sure that we're looking after the family as well. And that's a little bit different than the atmosphere you'll get in palliative care. Palliative care very much focuses on the person who's dying. I mean, I'm not saying they don't support the family, because they do, but that's not their focus. Our focus is the unit, the family unit as a whole. The suite is set up to accommodate that. We have snacks there for the family. We have coffee and tea available. We have a beautiful queen-size bed with a great mattress. We keep hearing that from people. That family can stay right there in the suite with their loved one, but it's kind of tucked around the corner so they can actually sleep, but still kind of have an ear on what's going on if they're needed. So it works really well. And then we have comfort care volunteers in the suite from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. Your loved one, if they're using the suite, is never alone. We encourage family to be there and to help as much as they can with the care, they want to with the care. One of the nice things about hospice, and we hear this from our families over and over again, is that when they come in, it's a big weight off their shoulders to know that somebody else is going to take over the care, because it can be difficult for people to have to do that care at home. And the other thing is that they can revert back to their family roles. Our future plans, right now, October 2020, we have the 1 bed available. We are working on the 2nd bed, and we hope to have that open in the next few months. We've had 27 families that have used the hospice suite. Unfortunately, we've also had to turn away 18 families who were ready to use the suite, but the bed was full. So that's really why we're moving as quickly as we can to get the 2nd bed open, is to make sure that we never have to turn a family away, because it really breaks our hearts when we have to do that. So we do have a 3-step business plan. The first phase was to open the 1st room, which we've accomplished. The 2nd phase was the 2nd room. The 3rd phase we looked at a little broader and said we would someday maybe have our own facility, so a standalone 3 or 4 bed facility. Our community is aging. We're actually more aged in our community than provincial average. So we know that the need for hospice is going to increase over the years. And whether it's at Tiverton Park Manor that we increase the beds, or whether we do it somewhere else as a standalone, will really depend on the community and what they want and what they're willing to support. Right now, we really feel that our agreement with Tiverton Park Manor works beautifully. It's certainly much more cost effective than having our own standalone facility. So we're quite happy there, and they seem to be happy with us. So it's working, the partnership is working beautifully. So I can see us staying there for many, many years.